Chris Mannix, covering the league for now 20 years. It's like his 20-year celebration. He entered it about the time LeBron did. You did, actually. In 2003, you started covering it. That's about LeBron's timeline.
Roughly, more or less.
Yeah. So when you look
I'm not retiring, though, just to be clear.
No, plenty of years left. Okay. So I think it's very hard in the NBA, even if you're a star coach, Kerr and Spo. Got to walk on eggshells around stars. It's a players' league. LeBron, Spo had their moments. Kerr, KD. Those guys struggled at times to get buy-in from stars. Mazzulla's a kid, right? He comes to a team that guys have been compensated. They're good. They were in a final, and he wasn't the first choice. It's hard. He didn't get buy-in. It's hard to bark like Malone when you don't have his career and his resume. Correct. So I read all Boston opinion over the last 48 hours is he's done. I would get it, but I think he's Brad Stevens' guy. Is there a chance they just give him time to bake here a little bit?
I think there is a good chance. You make the point that he's Brad Stevens' guy. He's probably the closest thing that Brad Stevens has to a protege. Brad Stevens brought him in when he was a Division III head coach at Fairmont. He put him on his staff. He made sure Ime Udoka retained him on his staff when Brad moved up to the front office. He made sure that Will Hardy and Danny Ainge couldn't take him to Utah when the Jazz were after him after Hardy came off that Celtics staff. And then he was the guy handpicked from behind the bench to take the role once Ime Udoka was out. So there is a level of loyalty there with Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla. The only thing that makes me pause and say there's a chance they let him go is that this market is robust with championship-level coaches. You've got Mike Budenholzer out there. You've got Frank Vogel out there. You've got Monty Williams now out there. Nick Nurse now out there. You've got a number of elite, proven coaches that are available on the market that weren't available at this time or in September of last year when Joe Mazzulla was abruptly elevated to that position. That's the only thing, Colin, that makes me wonder if this ends poorly tonight for the Celtics, that Brad Stevens might make a move. I think if the other alternative for Brad Stevens and the Celtics is to flesh out that coaching staff. The brain drain in Boston has been real.
Yeah.
Like Joe Mazzulla was put in that job, but Ime Udoka wasn't replaced. Will Hardy wasn't replaced. Damon Stoudemire wasn't replaced.
Right.
They've got some quality assistants on that staff, but nobody with the gravitas that a Will Hardy or an Ime Udoka or even a Damon Stoudemire possesses. Right. So fleshing out that staff might be an alternative to all this.
Yeah, by the way, Steve Kerr has got his Kenny Atkinsons. Yep. He's had, years ago,
Mike Brown.
Mike Brown. Like, if you don't think assistants, I mean, and you can watch, Kerr will turn to his guys 20 times in the game. Like, he's looking for information. So that's a great point. So I've said this before, is that you can make the argument a lot of things converged. Jaylen Brown's hands messed up. I never think the Tatum-Brown vibe is perfect. It's D-Wade, LeBron, where it's not, aesthetically, it's like it can be clunky, but those guys were so damn talented, they just burrowed through it. They're not that talented. They're not iconic. They're just really, really good. There is an argument, and I think we have to come to terms with, I love Jayson Tatum. Prep school, Duke, great coaching. Iconic coaching. Coach K. Brad Stevens was the best young college coach, bro. Then Ime Udoka. And then he gets a weaker coach, and it feels like he's shrinking a little. He is needed. He's not... his personality reminds me at times a little of Andrew Wiggins. Great kid, but sometimes you're like, seize the moment. Not everybody's MJ. Not everybody punches teammates, right? Like, it's just Embiid and Jokić, totally different personalities. Could I not argue that Tatum's here for the long term and Marcus Smart is probably the soul of it, and you need a rim protector? But Jaylen Brown's a great player, and you could get players that more complement and elevate Tatum. That you can love Jaylen Brown, but acknowledge it's not perfect. Jaylen Brown would get you picks and players, multiple. It's worth a call, right?
Well, they've made calls like that before. When Kevin Durant was available, that conversation centered around Jaylen Brown. If there is a player on the Durant level that becomes available this offseason, I'm sure the Celtics would explore all avenues. But I wouldn't do anything short of a Kevin Durant in exchange for Jaylen Brown. I wouldn't trade him for quarters on the dollar. I wouldn't trade him for some kind of combination of picks and players. Whenever I talk to different executives about how they're building teams, the one thing they say is that we want to build around elite, versatile wing players. And oftentimes, when they talk about those players, like they say, like the two guys in Boston, not the one guy in Boston, the two guys in Boston. Jaylen Brown is viewed not on the same level as Jayson Tatum, but a cut below. He's all NBA second team. Yeah. He had a phenomenal year. Now, he hasn't performed in this playoffs like you'd expect. And Jayson Tatum, his inconsistencies go back to last season. I mean, Game 7 against Milwaukee's second round last year, Grant Williams doesn't go crazy. They don't win. Jayson Tatum did not show up for that Game 7. Game 6, he was great. Game 7, he was not. In the finals, Tatum was awful. Jaylen Brown was the best player for the Celtics in that series against Golden State. So, as much as it's been puzzling to watch this team struggle and to watch Tatum be so inconsistent, unless you are blown away with the kind of offer you can't say no to and the kind of player you could never turn down, the only action you take with Jaylen Brown is to offer him that Supermax contract and then see what happens next season.
Let's pivot to the Lakers. LeBron, Kyrie's at the game last night, and we said he does provide what they need with his playmakers. And if you had AD and Kyrie and LeBron, you don't need any of them to play 68 games. It kind of works. Now, we could argue all day and lament Kyrie's personality, which has gotten stranger. Do you think LeBron retires? And what do you make of Kyrie once again waving hi to the franchise?
Last time Kyrie was at a Laker game, D'Angelo Russell went off. I think he had like 31 in that game.
Of course he did.
And like everybody said, oh, D'Angelo Russell showing Kyrie we don't need him. In this game, it was the culmination of 4 bad games for D'Angelo Russell and made you start to think, do we need Kyrie Irving on this team to be successful? Now, I don't believe LeBron's retiring. Nobody I talk to believe LeBron's retiring.
Okay.
His statements last night were a couple of things, I think. One, there was some authenticity to it. He just endured probably the most mentally and physically draining year of his career. Both. Start of the season, the Westbrook drama, that took a lot out of him. Has the most significant injury of his career, and then has to play 40-plus minutes in postseason games just to get these guys through. I understand in that moment, LeBron James feeling contemplative, feeling like he has to think about what his future wants to be. So I think there's awesome authenticity to it. But this was a leverage play too, Colin. We all know that. Like, nobody has leveraged situations through contracts and his career more than LeBron James. In Cleveland, series of one-year contracts, all designed to put maximum pressure on the Cavaliers front office to win now and not worry about the future. So he's looking ahead next season with LA. And I'm sure in the front office mind with the Lakers, running this back has its appeal. You bring back D'Angelo Russell on a manageable contract. Maybe you have to overpay for Austin Reeves, but this was a great team in the second half of the season, and they made it to the conference finals. That makes some sense. To LeBron, that might not make all the sense. He just watched Russell be a non-factor in these conference finals.
All games.
All games. And if he can't score, he can't defend, so he's pretty much useless out there. And LeBron's probably thinking, age 39, can I do the same thing over again? Can I survive a D'Angelo Russell flameout in the postseason? Probably not. So I think in his mind, he's saying, look, I have the one lever I have to pull is me. I can say, I'm not going to come back unless you do exactly what you want me to do. Look, LeBron doesn't care. I don't think he cares about the future of the Lakers after next season. He doesn't. He's going to do whatever his son's going to do a year from now and go play wherever his son winds up playing. Next year is probably his last year to win a championship. And he's going to find a way, through any means necessary, to making sure the best possible players are on that roster.
He's not going to play for anybody else, though.
No. I mean, I never looked at this as, all right, maybe you can trade me somewhere else. Like Golden State, let me go up and play with Draymond. Or the Knicks, let me go play over there. When he went to California to play for the Lakers, this was as much about lifestyle as it was about winning championships. So why would he want to leave Los Angeles when he's going to have a chance to watch his son play 10, 12, 15 games at home next year for USC? That doesn't make any sense to me. This is all about LeBron, in my mind, getting what he wants, and what he wants might be Kyrie Irving. But if you're the Lakers, are you really going to commit 4 years and $200 million to Kyrie Irving? Because when LeBron is gone, Kyrie remains, and that could set you back years for your franchise.
What do you make of Jokić? I said this, as good as Shaq was, he didn't shoot pass like that. He didn't take the ball off the rim consistently and lead the break. This league has always been shaped by big men. He feels like the latest evolution. You get the European brain, sort of little ego, not super dynamic athletically, but I'm watching, because the European guys play with men much younger, so they mature very quickly. They come in very skilled. They used to be more finesse players. They're not as much now. They've gotten tougher. But they come in, like Luka's game offensively was like a grown man at 20. And I look at Jokić and I think to myself, his ego's not going to blow it up. I'm going to make the comp. This has a Spurs feel. A selfless star who doesn't want endorsements. He wants his privacy. A second player who's better than he's being recognized, Tony Parker and Jamal Murray. And other players like Manu and Michael Porter, who are, for what they do, elite. Michael Porter, we waited 5 years for this. He was the best high school player. I mean, like I'm from Washington State. Like, they talked about Michael Porter when he was like 14 years old. He's now 6'10", can defend. That we're looking at, and by the way, won't be a ratings titan, but it's got a Spurs culture vibe to it, doesn't it?
It's a great comparison, and I think you're right, because Jokić does not want the attention. All throughout the last couple of months, while the MVP debate was raging, where it wasn't raging was in Denver, at least not in that Nuggets locker room, because frankly, Jokić didn't really care. Even though his teammates cared and Michael Malone cared, Jokić was never as obsessed with this MVP debate as, frankly, Joel Embiid has been, as Giannis probably was. Jokić just goes about his business. He doesn't want to do any interviews. You try to get with him in an extended setting, it's not going to happen. He's going to do his NBA-mandated media obligations,
right,
and that's about it.
That's very Tim Duncan.
Yeah, it's very Tim Duncan-like. So, and he is always going to be that selfless type of player. What I liked about Jokić after the game last night was in the moment where it could have been all about him, where he could have said, hey, haters, hey, everyone that said I wasn't a playoff performer, everyone that said I couldn't take a team to this level, well, I'm going to talk now about the equipment manager on that team. And he starts rattling off names of guys that have played for the team before and helped this team get to the level that it's at today. All this guy cares about is winning and seeing the guys around him succeed. So in that way, they are very San Antonio-like.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.